get started. You're all very welcome. Tonight, I'm going to give you an information webinar on our new blended and flexible degrees in early childhood care, health and education. So some of you might know me. My name is Patsy Callaghan and I lecture on our early childhood programmes in ATU in Donegal, and I'm currently the programme coordinator. So these programmes have been designed specifically for those that are already working in the sector and who would like the opportunity to upskill to their level 7 or their level 8. So I'll give you a presentation with the information that we think people might like to know at this stage, and then with some contact details near the end with regard to admissions, or if you want to look for further clarification. And Trish McLaughlin will join us from Donegal County Childcare Committee and come in and give us some input on her views as well on upskilling to the level 7 and level 8 in our sector in Donegal. And in saying that, the course is wide open as well. Other people may wish to join out of county and they're very welcome. The webinar will be recorded, just so that you're aware. We will be recording the webinar, and when I've done the information piece and Trish has had a little input, I will then look at any questions that might be appearing in the chat. Maybe there's queries still that I haven't covered in the information presentation. So near the end, if there are questions in the chat, I'll try and answer a few if I can, or as many as I can. But if there's more than anticipated, I will take them down and email people and follow up with those. But we'll see. Hopefully the information will be in the presentation, but maybe people would like further clarification. So that's how it will roll tonight and how the information webinar will play out. So we'll move into the slides and I'll just make sure that everyone can see. So our programme has been successful and been approved by the Qualifications Advisory Board. So those of you who may not be familiar with this, under the Minister for Education and the Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth, there is a QAB, Qualifications Advisory Board, where a panel of experts review degree programmes, new, recently developed degree programmes. And those programmes must meet standards, criteria, professional competencies, practice hours and placement, and quality assurance is what this is about, so that degree programmes are meeting professional standards according to this document that was developed for the sector. So we have been approved, and this flexible blended programme, you can rest assured, is on the list of those programmes that have been approved by the QAB. So why is that important? It's relevant because it connects to future funding and programmes that are on that list. When your qualifications would be reviewed to connect to government funding, they will want your qualification to be on that QAB approved programme that has had quality assurance. Okay, so it has been and it is part of that list of qualifications. So this professional recognition, this is what this programme is about. It's targeting people who are currently working in practice and who have experience under their belt. So let's have a look at what I want to say here. The Quality Advisory Board, Qualifications Advisory Board programmes that we offer are giving you experienced early childhood educators, those who are working with children from birth to 6, or at least children under the age of 6, because this is the early childhood sector according to Ireland and the country that we're delivering our degree programme. So those of you who are working with children under the age of 6, in order to upskill and get your level 7 degree, an ordinary degree, or if you wish to go further and get a level 8 honours degree. And you can do that while you're continuing to work on this flexible blended programme. So this pathway will afford the professionals the chance to continue that working in practice, but also upskilling, but also developing the competencies that you already have. But I think the wonderful thing about this type of programme is this collaboration with experienced early educators like yourself, the sense of a community of practice that can happen and evolve in a flexible programme like this, where experienced educators come together and share their knowledge and grow and learn together. So you'll have a lot to contribute to this type of programme when you attend classes and workshops, and reflections in your practice would tend to be quite rich for mature learners who are working on the ground. Modules will be delivered, and this is the type of information that's very important to you all. Modules will be delivered one evening per week online. and with some blended activity set by your module lecturer each week. Now I'll show you a sample schedule and explain a little bit more in detail as we move on. Each semester will include 4 to 5 Saturdays, full day Saturday classes on campus in ATU Donegal. We have designed it like this because feedback from the ground really is that not everybody is good at self-disciplined learning online. Some people really, really want that engagement, reflective discussion with practitioners, with colleagues. Some people have built brilliant networks in their local areas. Some people work in isolation, managing services or room leaders. So this connection, this coming together on Saturday was so that all our classes weren't only online, that we had full day classes as well. So you could expect to be one Saturday a month. The schedule would be very clearly outlined in advance of the semester starting. So you would get your list of dates right through for the 13 weeks of a semester if you were joining us. The entry criteria. Okay, so as I've mentioned, it's those who are currently working in practice. So you must have completed a QQI major award in level 6 in early childhood care and education. It has to be early childhood care and education. If you were wanting to look at something equivalent, we would need to know that you had a really good underpinning knowledge in child development, child psychology, curriculum, play, policy in early years, legislation, child protection. So all of those underpinning knowledge, understanding, skills and attitudes to learning that would exist in a level 6 award must be relevant to early childhood care and education. So this is the entry criteria. We've written 8 modules here in brackets because there were old level 6 major awards that had 4 modules going back a good few years. So we need to know that the level 6 is relevant, it's recent, it's up to date, and that the underpinning knowledge covered in that major award was substantial. Some of you may have had RPL for some modules within a major award level 6, but if you have a certificate that gives you a major award in early childhood education and care at level 6, that will be accepted. Okay, so if you have any queries around that, our admissions team will be really happy to help, but just to know it's specific to those who have worked and trained in the sector already. You must have the equivalent of 1 year full-time work experience, and that's because we need people to come in direct entry to this programme who have experience on the ground in order to be able to hit the level that the course will be delivered at, and the expectations that will be given for people to be in the room to be able to have some content knowledge already. You might be working 2 years part-time, which would be equivalent to 1 year full-time, but it's the fact that you've actually been out employed beyond doing some work experience or work placement in a course, that you've actually had that 1 year as a work employee out in the sector. And you must currently be working in practice in a formal early childhood setting. So there's quite a few things there that people need to meet in the entry criteria, and this is to help the student or the adult student or the mature learner be successful in the programme. It's also what we've agreed under our application with the QAB and the standards of how people will come onto the course and what background they will have in order to go to direct entry and to do their level 7 over 2 years. Also, you must arrange, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, you must arrange to attend 25% of the practice hours in another formal early childhood setting. And I'll explain what we mean by that. Again, this is about quality assurance. It's about professionalisation, a programme that even though people may be working in practice while they're doing the course, that they're also broadening and widening their experience, and they're looking for some practice experience in another setting that they might never have worked in before under a different supervisor, so that it's like all learning, pushing people out of their comfort zone and looking for them to expand and widen their horizons. So I'll explain more about that and what kind of hours would be involved when we say 25%. So the programme schedule, if you're doing the Bachelor of Science Ordinary in level 6, of course you need to have your level 6 to enter that. It will be delivered over 2 years and 4 academic semesters. An academic semester runs from September to December and January to May. So there won't be any classes or engagement on this programme during the summer months. Students will attend 2 modules a semester. So you'll do one module, and then when that's finished, you'll move into the next module. The semester would be about 13 weeks. And placement practice is an ongoing integral part of the course across the 4 semesters. So with those who are working in the sector on this flexible blended programme, we would give you the full year to complete your practice hours, as opposed to saying you have 6 weeks to get these placement hours documented. We give you a full year while you're out in placement to work on portfolio projects, reflective exercises, and to document and record your hours with your named supervisor. So that's 2 years if you want to complete the level 7. The level 8, some of you may already have a level 7 and you wish to engage now with the level 8. So that would take you a year and a half to complete. You will attend 3 shorter modules a semester, and they're shorter because in level 8, as you climb higher up, you have less contact teaching time and more independent research or study time with the literature. So that's why those modules may be shorter and you may cover more modules, but in the same 13 weeks. And again, for the level 8, placement practice is ongoing as part of that programme, but it's a shorter placement, and I'll give you more information on the placement practice requirements in a second. So here we are. Placement requirements for those doing level 7. So over the period, each year, year 1 and year 2 of level 7, you would need to cover 300 hours of practice out in placement with children under 6. Now, we do say 300 hours is the minimum that we would need you to do in order for us to take a portfolio from you for assessment and to consider whether it's a pass in the practice module. But many of you will cover many more hours than 300, but that's the minimum that you must have signed off and documented by your placement supervisor for us to consider reviewing a portfolio of evidence for assessment, okay? It's worth 30 credits, 30 ECTs. So 75%, so let's look at just year 1 for now, and year 2 is the same then. 75% of your hours would be equivalent to 225 hours. So you would do those in your own workplace as you're working throughout the year, attending modules. You would be just doing projects that we'd introduce you to through placement in your own workplace. But 25% of those 300 hours must be done and carried out in a different service, a second site, we call it. And it's somewhere where you're not employed, and that would equate to 75 hours. So really that 75 hours you would have to do over the period of the academic year, somewhere between September and May. And the reason we keep it in the academic year is because there will be a lecturer visiting you and having meetings with you and your supervisor. So we have to make sure that the teaching staff are available and that it's done within our academic teaching calendar. So 75 hours, some of you might say, well, I might take a week off there, I might do annual leave, I might negotiate that I take 1 or 2 days off a week. That's up and negotiable. That's completely up to the person. But what we must stress at application stage, let's say you submit an application form with your level 6 qualifications and proof that you're in employment, and we're saying, okay, this person has met the criteria. We will then send you out a form, and it's called the Placement Sites and Supervisors form. And what you must do before we would commit to taking you on the course, you must fill that out and tell us where are you going to be working your 75 hours, where's your employed workplace. That must be signed and agreed by your supervisor or manager, agreeing that they will mentor you and that they understand you're doing practice. If you're the owner manager, don't worry, we'll have a plan in place. We can look at setting you up with peer mentors and other services, but you still do your workplace in your own setting. But obviously you can't supervise yourself and you can't mentor and sign off your documents. So we would look at setting up a peer mentoring program so that owner managers that don't have maybe a chairperson, but we'd need that form filled in to understand people's context with regard to the workplace. On that same form, we want you to tell us, where's the second site? Who's the supervisor on the second site? Have they approved you doing your placement with them? And when and how do you intend to do those 75 hours? Okay, so we need that information so that before we accept you on the course, we know that you understand what you're committing to. But also we need to know that we can schedule then and timetable. Okay, you're going to be in that service. We're going to arrange a meeting when you're there. You're going to be in the other service, and we need to arrange a meeting with the lecturer and your supervisor and yourself. It's very important under this quality approved program that we have triad meetings, and that would be with the student, their mentor supervisor, and the lecturer from college, that all three of us sit down together and have a reflective discussion on your progression, as opposed to us talking about you in a different room. It's all about transparency and your learning journey being discussed with you, and you have an input to that. So that's year 1 of level 7, and year 2 of level 7 with regard to placement would be the exact same. It would be 300 hours, 225 in your own workplace, and 75 hours in another setting, whichever way you would decide to work that out, 1 day a week, or maybe block periods that you might take out of one setting. Again, these things would have to be negotiable within your own service and with your employer as well. It is quality assurance and its criteria that's happening now, really, with degrees that are run flexible and blended to ensure that people are getting a wide berth, similar to full-time students, that they're experiencing a variety of settings, services, management styles, and different supervisors. Level 8, so this is the practice requirements with the level 8. So by the time you've got to level 8 and you've experienced maybe level 6 and level 7 qualifications, you usually have a good bit of practice placement on your transcripts in your module qualification. So in the level 8, we have less hours. It's 150 hours in the placement project. This module is worth 5 credits as opposed to the bigger 30 credits in level 7. So in order to meet the minimum, you would need to cover 112.5 hours in your own workplace setting, similar to level 7. And again, 25% must be done or carried out in a second site, which would be approximately 37.5 hours. And again, when the level 8 applicants would apply, we would look at the criteria. Do they have their level 7? Are they at the stage that they're ready? Have they got a work practice? Where are they working? Then if you meet that criteria, we will then from admission send you out the form to complete, to tell us about your placement and where you intend to do your 25%, and signed off by the mentor or supervisor. Okay. Moving in, I'm not sure if I can expand this. It might be very difficult for you to see. It's quite small, but what it is, it's part of a draft schedule of a 13-week program. A schedule similar to this would be sent out to you once applicants have been approved and once we know that the course has a start date and when it's beginning. But just to briefly talk you through how this would be delivered for you to have an idea of your level of commitment. So you understand the entry criteria, you understand what's involved with regard to practice placement, and how then would you be expected to attend. So the first Tuesday here is just an induction evening for an hour and a half on campus. So you would come and get registered, you would get your student card, you might be shown around the library. We could show you how to access the virtual learning environment so you know how to engage with the online classes. So that would be on campus, like a grouping of us as a class starting and an induction to the course. Then moving down, there's an example of how we introduce you to practice placement portfolio projects. We have a half-day workshop on a Saturday at the start of the year, and we would say, you know, when you're out on your level 7, year 1, or your level 8 practice placement, here's the criteria and the learning outcomes you must be working towards. These are the projects and reflective exercises we want you to document and write up. Here's when you will have a visit and who's going to visit and how will that go and which setting will the lecturer visit you in. So that's like a morning workshop to introduce you to placement early in the year. And then you kind of have autonomy and control to be working on those projects slowly over the year in your placement practice, with engagement with lecturers in the college and visiting from them as well. And then here's an example of a module called Creativity and Process-Based Play. It's 5 credits. So if this was your schedule, every Tuesday night, you'd be logging on to class from 6 to 9:30. We appreciate some people be finishing work at 6. They might be logging in just a little bit later, but 6 to 9:30. We have a certain amount of hours to cover in these modules to be quality assured. And within that week, your lecture of that module will set some blended activities. So you could expect to be engaging in independent work around 3.5 hours. Now, blended activities could be giving you a piece of reading and asking you to engage in a discussion forum about that. It could be asking you to review policy documents and to compare it to policy in your own practice, a reflective piece of work. You could be asked to engage with other people in your class in a group project and maybe have MS team meeting that week, a project that might be going on for a few weeks. But what we're saying in those blended activities, there will be various ways that a lecturer will engage you with that work, but you can expect to be given learning on a degree programme about 3.5 hours of extra work outside of the class that you attend. The classes are live, they're taught live, and we really, really want engagement in the class. We want to see people present. We want to see cameras on. We want to see you going into group work and working with us in the class, as opposed to the didactic, just talking and listening and people connecting in. It's intended to be a live, engaged class to get the richness of your experience. And then attendance will be kept and recorded and kept on track for our quality assurance procedures as well, because we have to be able to document and evidence all of these quality processes. So that would be every Tuesday night. And in the middle, there is a Saturday, so a full day Saturday on campus from 10 to 5. So part of the module content and the delivery of the learning outcomes will include a full Saturday. And again, it's about bringing people into the room and connecting as opposed to only being online. So then we move down and I have a sample of a Monday night. Now, this is an optional thing that we will put into the course, where we will ask, it'll be an online, maybe on a Monday night, somebody might come in and give a talk from the college about referencing literature, how to do conscious quality reading, how to critique what you're reading and analyse that, how to build discussion in an essay or an assignment, critical thinking. So there's brilliant staff in ATU Donegal that do wonderful workshops like that in our Communications Learning Centre for students. So we could bring in some optional workshops like that as well, which would be on a Monday night so that it's not impacting on our module teaching. And I've added in here some placement triad meetings would be happening throughout the 13 weeks. It's anticipated that you would have an online meeting with your actual workplace and your workplace supervisor and your lecturer. And then when you're in your second site, that's where the face-to-face visit will happen, that the lecturer from college will arrange to come out and visit you while you're in that second site with a supervisor there. Again, it's all our quality assured processes, and just to give you an idea, an indication of how that might happen. So then this is just half of a 13-week semester. So we're kind of coming down halfway through the semester now, and we're going to introduce a new module because the creativity and process-based module will have finished. It will have covered the hours that they're intended to teach. You might have submitted some assessment work for that module, and then a second module will be starting. So this one, for example, is pedagogical leadership. And it's a 10 credit module. So the same hours will be delivered on the Saturdays or in the night online classes, but the blended expectation will be 5 hours, so a little bit more. So you might expect more work in the blended element that's delivered by the module lecture at that time. Now that is just a draft sample, but this is the exact template that will be used, and all that really needs to be added in is dates and the modules that we're running with when we start in January, which part of the program are we starting with. But that gives you a layout of a sample of how it might work for you across a 13-week period. Exam period is in January. and May, but not all modules will have exams. Not all subjects are exams. We have a lot more reflective discussion, group work. It's some assignments. Some have options for podcasts or video essay, group work exercises. So not every module you do will have an exam element, but any that do, you'll sit exams in January after Christmas and in May, because that's the exam period in college. And you'll know at the start of every module, even at induction night, you know, one of us could tell you this, how many exam modules, if any, there is in your first semester. So what are the fees? This is the question everybody likes to know. What do I have to commit to? How many hours a week? And where can I do my placement? But the fees is generally the big question as well. So for the Bachelor of Science Ordinary Level 7, it's €3,000 per year. So there's 2 years involved in the Level 7. And for the Bachelor of Science Honours Level 8, it's 2,700 in total. So the Level 8 takes you a year and a half, but it's 2,700 in total. And the variation in price really is to do with the amount of modules, the amount of credits, the amount of teaching time is required as well within the programme. Now, there are pay plans available, and it would be the admissions office that would let you know how or what kind of pay plans would be on offer. So any application queries are around pay plans for fees. I have here the email admissions.donegal@atu.ie. And for course queries, emails can be sent to the Department of Early Education and Social Studies. So that's eess.donegal@atu.ie. And this will be, as I said, recorded and uploaded to ATU's YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to look back over any information that you might have missed or you want to look back over. And then success is what we want for anybody who wants to engage with us in the Level 7 and Level 8. So we want to support you on that journey, that learning journey, but we also, these people working together in this image, we really want to build a community of practice as well, to bring people together, to share their knowledge and understanding. And when I worked on the flexible program before with some of you maybe that are here today, it really is a brilliant discussion forum and a really opportunity to reflect and work together towards success. And we have a brilliant library, and we can do library tours for some of you in the evening if you'd like to do that, if you want to join up. So down here, just on this slide as well, I have my email, patsy.callaghan@atu.ie. And I would be able to answer things specific to the course content, the assessment, the schedule, things like that. Admissions or fees or pay plans would be the admissions office, but you can either email our department or myself if you have any other particular queries, or if you find somebody else in your workplace is interested and they have a particular question or query. But if it's relating to certificates, I think admissions would probably review your applications with that involved. So I might invite Trish in to talk with us now. If there's any, Trish, if there's any thoughts or input you might like to say on our programme, I think.
Oh, Patsy, it sounds brilliant. I did you can hear me, can't you?
We can hear you, yeah. Can we see you?
I did my master's in many, many moons ago. I can't even tell you when, it's that long ago now, but I did it on a Tuesday evening, and there was only about 12 of us in the group, and we were all quite mature and all employed, and the richness of the learning was just, it's such a different experience from doing an undergrad. It was just, we were all, I suppose we were all in our early 20s, but we were all employed and we were bringing our work with us into the course, and it was just a lovely way of learning. It was just really rich. So this is quite exciting, really.
Yeah.
This program. So I'm here to tell you how wonderful it'll be to have a degree in it for yourselves, in terms of, do you want me to turn on my camera?
If you want, if you
I don't
like,
mind,
if you're comfortable, yeah.
That's a bit, it'll come on. And I went, oh, look at this. Not a hope. Yay, I'm here.
There you are.
Okay. So hi everybody. So I'm sure most people know about core funding. So it is basically the new funding model that was introduced in 2022. I'm sure everybody's sick listening to it about it at this stage, but really it was brought in to it was a direct funding model brought in for them to improve affordability and quality in the sector. So I suppose we are looking at the government were looking at staff retention, they were looking at the low pay within the sector, they were looking at all them elements which really do affect quality at the end of the day, and they're trying to increase the quality within the sector. So I suppose NCS and ECCHE funding remained the same. So the payment is directly to providers. So the biggest downside at the minute is that it's the pay freezes, or the freeze is there for parents. So we're trying to keep the cost down for parents as well. But 259 million per year for core funding was allocated. So there is a big push. I mean, the government is really aware of the poor paying conditions for staff, and in Donegal, we have a real low, all-time low in terms of recruitment. We have lots of services considering closing rooms. We just cannot get the staff into the sector, but we really do need qualified and degree-led staff to bring the sector forward. I think that's the big thing. I think if we look at the bigger picture, we need people that are qualified to degree level to move the sector, so that we are looking for better paying conditions and that we are qualified to have that look. The core funding also allows for there's funding available, or should be funding available, for non-contact time and CPD. So really the new hourly rates, I suppose we're under negotiation again, and we're expecting more any day, as you probably all know. I think everybody's in agreement at the minute, except SIPTO, on the new rates that are coming out, and that money has been earmarked under the core funding budget, so it should be available to services once they agree the amount. But an early years educator and school-age childcare practitioners, the agreed rate is €13 per hour, and for room leaders is 14. Once you go into the graduate lead, then for room leaders it's $15.50 per hour, and $15.70 for a deputy manager, $16.50 for a centre manager, and $17.25 for a graduate manager within the sector. But and they're really on par with salaries for SNA. Like the €13 an hour is very much lined up with the salaries for SNAs as well. So, but the idea of being a graduate-led workforce, it's the first time we're getting an opportunity to push for professionalisation within the sector, and we're always talking about that professionalisation within the sector. And when there is a commitment. This is a very first step. Last year's ERO was the very first step in making sure that the wages are coming up, and we'd be the first people to say that they're still not great, but it is the very first step. And if we can't keep that graduate-led workforce coming in, it's not going to go anywhere. We need people to be graduated. We need people to be on 7s and 8s. So we also have, and I know the fees are quite costly, but I mean, with a payment plan, hopefully people will, maybe some of the services will sponsor a few people as well. But we do have the Learner Fund bursary that comes out from the County Childcare Committees every year. So there's an entitlement once you've graduated. So you must have qualified first, and then there's a reimbursement of €750. So it's a little help in a big hole of money, but it